What's going on, everybody? So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I just wanted to say this channel is presented by After Dark Sports and Browns After Dark. Please be sure to check out Browns After Dark every Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us at Browns After Dark on Twitter. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Browns Beat podcast. I am Derek.
And I'm Tristan.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. So on the last one, I said, man, it would be great if Jadeveon Clowney signed before our next podcast. And lo and behold, look who is back. Jadeveon Clowney back with the Cleveland Browns. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Browns now willing to eat more of Baker Mayfield's contract to move him on to his next team. We're going to get into some OTAs and whatever else we think of. So Tristan, Jadeveon Clowney back with the Cleveland Browns on a one-year deal worth up to $11 million. What'd you think?
Yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, you're talking about a guy who had a really, really productive year last year for us. The 9 sacks, all that stuff. It's so great to have a player who wants to be a Cleveland Brown. So many years we've had guys coming into the building just to collect a paycheck. And the whole aura around the Cleveland Browns has changed. Clowney, according to Rappaport, there were multiple reports out there that he had a few multi-year deals in the $14 to $15 million a year range. And, he always wanted to come back and play for the Browns this year. And it's just such a refreshing feeling knowing that you are a destination now. It's every year there's free agents, some top free agents that want to come here. There's guys that want to be here to win, and it's exciting. It's exciting, and I'm happy that the culture around the Browns has changed. And with Jadeveon Clowney in particular, you're talking about a guy who had the 9 sacks, which was a great year for him. However, he provided so much value in our run defense this year. I mean, we for years had struggled to stop the run. And last year we had one of the worst D tackle groups in the past 5 years that we've had. And our run defense was the best. And that was because of Jadeveon Clowney. And, he provides so much influence to the game. His partnership with Miles is perfect. They're made for each other, and it's been a great offseason to bring him back, because I don't think our defense would have been able to play up to the level it did towards the back half of last year if Jadeveon didn't come back. And honestly, for a guy who has been a journeyman throughout his career, has had a hard time finding his role, who came into the league, number 1 overall draft pick, lots of hype, he didn't get his big deal with the Texans, which I felt he should have. He went to Seattle. They played him in a scheme that wasn't designed for him. He went to Tennessee. They played him in a scheme that wasn't designed for him. He comes to Cleveland, and so far he's balled out, and he's been great for us. And I'm so happy he's back. And, I have all the respect in the world for him for, taking the pay cut. And, the reason why he did, Anthony Walker talked about it in his press conference yesterday, that, he texted Clowney, and, Clowney texted him back one word, and that word was Super Bowl. And in his interview today with Nathan Zagura, my bad, he talked about that he came back because he felt like this team had the best opportunity for him to win a Super Bowl with. And he was comfortable with the system. He was happy with the system, the position he was playing in. And he feels as though he can be a contributor and bring a Super Bowl to Cleveland this year. And, he hasn't gotten that big payday. And so for him to turn down the money for him to come here, I will probably never say a bad word about Jadeveon Clowney ever again. I mean, honestly, I have so much respect for him, and I'm thrilled he's back. I just couldn't be happier. How about you, Derek?
Yeah, man, we've waited on this news for a long time now, and there was the reports about Clowney, and they were going to have an agreement. It was just working out the minor details, and we've heard that for over a month now, and it was like, when is this going to get done? I know for me, it was kind of like, all right, I'm starting to get a little antsy here. we know Clowney loves to wait until signing it later in the offseason. It just so happened that this year he was able to get things done maybe a little bit earlier because, I mean, OTAs are going on right now, and normally that's what he wants to skip. But, yeah, I couldn't be any happier, Tristan. I mean, when you talk about Jadeveon Clowney, and you said it with his run defense, a lot of people don't realize how great of a run defender Jadeveon Clowney is. And when you can have that guy playing that Robin role second to Myles Garrett, that's awesome to have because Myles is great overall, don't get me wrong, but the Browns don't really have that great run defender without Jadeveon Clowney. And now that he's back, you have that ability yet again. And I couldn't be any happier. I mean, everybody wanted to talk about last offseason when we brought Clowney in. Hey, why would you want to bring in Jadeveon Clowney? He has no sacks. Well, the most important thing, and I think you saw that this season, the pressures, the ability to get in the quarterback's face and buy that little bit more time. That's what Myles Garrett needed. He needed that guy who he can rely on the opposite side to get the job done. And he finally had that with Clowney. And now you're going to be able to bring him back on that 1 year. He stayed fairly healthy last season, so I know that was a concern as well. And when it comes to the rookies, right, you draft Isaiah Thomas later on in the draft. You draft Alex Wright, hoping he can be the long-term Robin to Myles Garrett at that opposite side defensive end spot. And bringing back Jadeveon Clowney is going to buy you that time because, we talked about it. Alex Wright and Clowney are very, very similar in a lot of ways, but he needs to develop. So I think at this point, it's more so just you got Clowney, it's going to buy you time, and the production he can give you. So I couldn't be any happier to have him back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't have said that better. Fits the defense like a glove. He's everything that we need, and he's the perfect bridge for Alex Wright. And Alex Wright, I want him to quite literally follow Jadeveon wherever he goes and just learn from Jadeveon. Because if he can fill in that role starting next year for 3 years on his rookie deal, on the opposite side of Myles Garrett, the Browns will be in a very, very good position moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just really buying time for those younger guys to kind of develop. And then you also have that starter there in Clowney that you can count on while they are developing. So it's awesome. But anyway, Tristan, moving on. So apparently the Browns have had a change of heart when it comes to the Baker Mayfield contract and how much they would be willing to eat as far as a trade goes. So it's being reported that way back when the Panthers and the Browns were in trade discussions for Baker Mayfield, they wanted the Browns to eat between $13 and $14 million of that deal. And it seems now that the Browns are more willing to do that. So, Tristan, what do you think of this? And how much do you think the Browns are going to actually eat in a potential trade?
Yeah. Listen, I've ripped at Baker Mayfield on this podcast before. He for the quarterback position, him at $18 million is a good deal. And it's his personality, like who he is, has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, that they would rather have gone out and gotten other guys that maybe aren't as talented. Or guys, teams just wanted guys that were going to help them tank to get, one of Bryce Young or, oh, geez, I'm
Stroud.
CJ Stroud. Yeah. Yeah. So he's in a really awkward situation. He's playing limbo. I do think he ends up going to the Panthers. Honestly, I think he gets cut. I really don't see the Browns wanting to go further with Baker Mayfield past June, like the first week in June. I think putting, I don't think that we can let it be a story going into camp. Honestly, like I just think right now, based off of everything going on with OTAs, a lot of like the players have a bunch of smiles on their face. They're really happy. The vibe there seems to be great. Deshaun Watson just took the entire offense to the Bahamas, so like the vibe is great there right now. And honestly, the last thing I'd want going into mini camp is for this to still be a story. I think that, what, come June 6th, June 7th, whatever, you don't have anything set in stone, just cut the guy at this point. I mean, we're gonna have to retain a lot of money anyways to get a deal done, and we won't be getting much in return. So at this point, I just don't think it really makes sense to keep him. For his sake and ours, just because for him, you know, he did provide us with some good moments here in Cleveland. I don't like how everything ended. I don't like how he went about things, but at the same token, he's still a talented quarterback and he deserves to have the opportunity to start elsewhere. Um, but honestly, I think if there's anything out of this, it's that Baker's really got to change and he's got to conduct himself better, because I think if he conducted himself in a more professional manner throughout this whole situation, I think he probably would have been gone already. I think the Panthers probably would have made the move, even if it meant taking on more salary, or the Seahawks would have. I just think that with everything going on, I don't see a way that we get anything for him. So just cut him at this point.
Yeah, this is a really, really bad divorce. I mean, I think we saw this coming to an extent, but at the same time, there's just so much craziness going on out there. I mean, I've seen reports, and I know you have too, Tristan, about, hey, the Browns are keeping Baker Mayfield around for when Deshaun gets suspended and he's going to start for however many games that is. Like, no, I'm sorry. That's just not happening because, again, if you're Baker, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just want to be moved on and go to your next team? And, I think it's important because a lot of people are forgetting Baker Mayfield is still rehabbing, right? So on top of having to learn yet another new offense, he's still going through his rehab process. So why would you want to come back to the Browns just to be traded before the trade deadline this season? Like, you want to just move on. You want to figure things out now. And it's hard because if you're the Browns, you need to get this done as soon as possible because you already have enough drama going on with the whole Deshaun stuff and the optics of that side of things. But when it comes to Baker, you don't need this extra thorn in your side. And it's not Baker's fault. He didn't decide to trade for Deshaun Watson, but you've made that move. And now you're kind of feeling the effects of it. Because, again, and this is one of the things that Benjamin Albright said when I got to talk to him a while back when this stuff was going on, he said the Browns themselves didn't think that they had a chance when it came to Deshaun. And here we are. They pulled it off. They got their guy. But it seems like they just did not prepare for this scenario of, hey, what do we do with Baker now? Because the really tough part about this is, I think as far as this Panthers thing and this report coming out, Sam Darnold is really hurting Baker Mayfield, and it's not Baker's fault. The Panthers already tried this experiment of trading for a quarterback who's going to have their fifth-year option, and it hasn't worked out for Sam Darnold in Carolina, so why would they pull the trigger on that again? Sure, they're desperate. They need to win now because of Matt Rule's job and everything, but it's like, man, they don't really want to pay that money. $18 million for Baker Mayfield, who is a solid starter. I mean, regardless of your criticisms of him, he's not terrible by any means. He's just, in my opinion, kind of that middle of the pack, and it just depends because sometimes he plays really, really well and he can creep up, and sometimes he struggles. But it's like he's a starter in the NFL, but for the Panthers, they need him, and it makes a ton of sense, but they don't really want to have to bite that bullet and pay all that money, so they're asking the Browns to take a portion of this deal. And Tristan, that's why I don't think the Browns are going to cut him, because why would you cut him if you can trade him and eat a lot of that money and get some sort of pick? Because at this point, I really could care less if it's a 6th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, as long as Baker can just be moved, because you don't want this hanging around and lingering for much longer, because you're getting into OTAs and eventually you're going to have mandatory minicamp, and at that point it's like, okay, Baker has to show up, and you don't want to deal with that drama. So it's best for both sides. It's best for Baker to just be on his new team so he can focus on his rehab, focus on learning a new offense, versus right where he's at now, where there's not really anything he can do. I mean, he can continue to rehab and get that shoulder stronger and everything like that, but he's going to have to learn that new offense. I mean, it's just a fact. It sucks that he's had to go through 50 billion different coaches here, but the Browns have decided to move on, and he's going to have to move on regardless. So he's going to have to learn another offense, and it's better at this point to just cut your losses, eat that money, move on. It's best for both sides, but I don't know. I just hope this doesn't drag on a whole lot longer, because the longer it goes on, the worse it is for both sides, in my opinion. And at this point, just get it done. Just trade him. He'll be happy. Wish him the best on his next team, wherever he ends up. It's interesting with Seattle, though. I don't know what they're doing, because reports are that, they're happy with who they got. And Geno Smith beating out Drew Lock, is that who you want? I would trade for Baker in a heartbeat if I'm Seattle. Like, you say you want to win now, but you want Geno Smith or Drew Lock to be your starter? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But like I said, it's better to just move on at this point. It's gone on long enough. You already made your decision to move on. Just trade him. Let's work it out. Let's get it done quick. Bite the bullet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, if you can get something for him, obviously do. I just think at this point, like I don't think that there's much value for him anymore. I just think that the value's tanked. But that's just me personally. If we can trade him, absolutely let's do it. But honestly, I don't even care what we get back for him. If we get anything back for him, I'll just be happy when it's no longer a story. Like
Yeah.
with the whole like OBJ and Baker stuff, like I was just happy it was no longer a story. I really didn't even care that we didn't get anything for him in a trade, even though obviously we probably wish we would have. But either way, at the time, it was just best that we got it off of our shoulders.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's at where it's at right now, but we're kind of in a holding period. Hopefully it gets figured out shortly. Like I said, it's best for both sides to move on at this point. But anyway, OTAs are on for the Cleveland Browns, and there's a couple of storylines I wanted to talk about here. So, I mean, clearly there's only so much you can really talk about when it comes to OTAs and practices and everything like that. But a couple of guys are really turning heads, and one of them is Isaiah Weston. He is really making an impact. UDFA signing for the Browns. We talked about, that kind of roster battle for that last wide receiver spot. He is making his name known. And then Jerome Ford is turning heads. And again, this is a guy we talked about as a potential down the road number 2 running back for the Browns whenever Kareem Hunt is gone. But he's making an impact now, and, we talked about Dearness Johnson and what happens there. It's kind of interesting. David Bell also being pretty consistent a lot of times in these clips that are coming out. You see the Browns using him more downfield, which is interesting because we heard that the Browns want to use him not just in a slot role, but also use him kind of on the outside as well. So, Tristan, what do you think about OTA so far and the guys that I just named there?
Yeah, so many stories right now. If you're looking for like the best coverage of OTAs right now, since there's limited media availability, the best guy to follow right now, or the best guy to listen to, is Nathan Zagura on Browns Daily Podcast. They do a great job there. He's constantly giving insight onto what's happening, even when the media aren't there, because he is an employee of the Browns. So he's probably my number one source of information right now. Isaiah Weston, he, like, when we signed him as an undrafted free agent, I mean, the things with him where, the measurables are off the charts. Like he's got like unbelievable straight line speed for a guy his size, and he had all the raw attributes. He could jump high, honestly, it feels kind of terrible listing him as a wide receiver because really he's an athlete, so he can jump out the gym. He's got all of these different traits to him. So I'm honestly not shocked that he's making a few plays. The big thing for him is I want to see what he does in minicamp, when the pads are on, when, it starts getting physical. But yeah, no, Jerome Ford, he looks like, he looks like he's got that second gear Like, he's got the ability to just, turn on the NOS, like boom, like, he's got that burst. And, he is somebody who I think that honestly, I would be shocked if if we're rolling into next season with Dearness Johnson. I think he's going to be a guy that plays the preseason, gets a lot of reps, and before the final cuts, we trade him for like a 6th-round pick or something to another team. Like, that would not shock me at all, just because I think Jerome Ford, with his contract flexibility, offers the Browns a bit more. And I think that he has more value to them because of that. And I mean, being a Kareem Hunt replacement, it looks like he's going to be able to beat that. Like, he's got all the raw tools. So very excited with that. A couple of other things I wanted to mention as well. With Anthony Schwartz, the big thing with the receiver position is, we will know if this is like Anthony Schwartz is going to have a year where he's going to be dependent upon, and he's going to be that guy. We will know that halfway through minicamp, because if the Browns bring in somebody halfway through minicamp, you can almost expect that Schwartz isn't going to be too involved this year. However, he's had nice OTAs, is what Nathan Zagura was saying. He's made some plays. He's looked good on 7-on-7s. He's had a couple plays where he's made some touchdown grabs, stuff like that. He's looking great, but we will know halfway through minicamp if he's going to be a big piece in this offense. Because I think he has the potential. As far as like other positions, something I wasn't expecting was the Browns are playing Denzel and Greg Newsome both in the slot a lot so far in OTAs. And I can understand why. When you look at last year with the Super Bowl, for example, the number one receiving threat was Cooper Kupp. He was a slot receiver. There's a lot of teams in the NFL who the slot receiver is their number one weapon. And I think if you have the guys that can compete on the outside, which I feel like they now do, between, Martin Emerson, between Greedy Williams, between like Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, they can cover the boundary, and you can put your best guy in the slot if that's where the other team's best guy is. And I'm expecting us to do that a lot this year. I really am. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's something worth noting, that we might see a lot more Denzel and a lot more Greg Newsome in the slot this year. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and Kevin Stefanski said, like, with OTAs, it's a period where you kind of want to play around with things, move guys into different spots. Like, last year we saw for the Browns in the OTA period, we used a lot of fullbacks. And it's not to say that we didn't use fullbacks during the regular season, because we did, but it wasn't like it was a massive, massive part of an every week game. So we'll see with that. I definitely think that the Browns are going to try to move guys around. I think they really want to have Greedy and Martin Emerson playing on the outsides and have that versatility of Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, then AJ Green to be able to play outside and then play in the slot as well. So it's definitely interesting for sure, and we'll probably dive into that more in the next episode. But when it comes to Jerome Ford, I kind of want to talk about this real quick. So we talked about the RPO game and his abilities, and that's kind of his skill set there, not just as a running back, but in that pass game. I kind of have that question with Jerome Ford showing so much, ability this early in OTAs. What does that mean for Demetric Felton? Because, yeah, he wasn't exactly used in the right role last year, maybe you could say, but at the same time, you're only going to keep so many running backs, and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are locks for this season, in my opinion. Do we keep 4? I think with Dearness Johnson, like we talked about, we're probably going to end up trading him, but Jerome Ford's making this team. So, Tristan, what do you think happens with Demetric Felton? Does he get cut? Do you think he makes the practice squad? I don't know. I'm just concerned that we're kind of using him strictly in that running back room. But anyway, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think that letting go of Demetric Felton, I believe, would be a mistake. I think that I just really love his talent. And, for me, you have to find a way to keep him around, in my opinion. Or, if we do let him go, trade him for something of value, like a fourth round pick or something, if you can get it. But like for me, I love Demetric Felton personally. But also at the same time, I understand the Browns have an abundance of wealth at the position. So, I do get it. If Demetric Felton's on the outside looking in, you know, and we have to release him. I just hope he can go somewhere and compete to be a number one running back because he's got, in my opinion at least, he's got that potential. I do truly feel it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Demetric Felton is really underrated, in my opinion. I mean, you got to remember this is a rookie we were talking about last year, a guy who really wasn't supposed to have a big time role, who was kind of forced into it with Kareem Hunt's injury. Maybe not a big time role, but a bigger role than he was supposed to have. And again, being a rookie coming out of UCLA, not a big time school anymore as far as like the Pac 12 being a running back. It's not the SEC Big Ten competition that you see some of these other guys coming out of. But I don't know. It's just he's got an uphill battle. I don't know. We're gonna have to see with Demetric Felton. I definitely think he's really good, but it's gonna be hard for him to keep a spot on this roster.
Mhm. No, I can agree with you on that. I do think that as far as his best position, his best role, I think it would be a slot receiver. Because you can flex him, like, run some end around stuff with him. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with him. So I just like him just because I think he's a jitterbug. I think at any moment when he's on the football field, he can explode and get you those gash plays, which I just love. And something else to keep an eye on is the Browns have been running a lot of packages with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the field, running triple options. So that is
Great
something
to
that we
see.
could, yeah, that is something that we could see. It was something that last year the Browns fans were like, well, why not? Why not get both of them on the field at the same time? It seems like Stefanski's really looking to open up the playbook and try new things. And listen, I mean, Deshaun, he's not a frail quarterback. He can take a hit. So, opening up the playbook, doing some triple options would be exciting. I think that we could see a lot of success, and I think that you're absolutely right with the RPOs, Derek. I think that this team is going to utilize a lot of RPOs this year. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's almost exclusively our offense. Um, with the Texans, Deshaun ran a lot of shotgun. However, he one of the things that I was hearing was that he does like being under center. He likes being under center. He wants to be under center more. So that would open up a lot of the play action stuff, a lot of the bootleg stuff that Coach Stefanski ran year one. He ran a lot of bootlegs, a lot of play action. It was good. It's good to see a lot of RPOs, but obviously when Baker got hurt, you're very limited. Not only that, but watch for the Browns to really attack the middle of the field this year. I am expecting us to be a team that isn't just rolling out the quarterback, trying to make plays up the sideline. I do feel like we will be lethal over the middle of the field this year. And honestly, like I'm not sure if I'm playing fantasy this year or not, fantasy football, but if I am, I'm looking to draft David Njoku because he is super, super talented as a receiver. And I think that with Deshaun now, who is a taller quarterback, who I believe throws the football better than Baker Mayfield, I do believe that we're going to attack in the middle of the field more. I think David Njoku is going to get utilized more. And I think it could be a really big career year for him. I really do feel that.
Alrighty, everybody. So to blow your minds for a second, the entire time we did this podcast, my mic on my end, for whatever reason through Zoom, was super, super staticky and unlistenable. So basically every clip that you've heard me talking, I had to go back and re-record basically word for word what I said. So that's the magic of editing, folks. So if you're still watching this at the end, hopefully you get a laugh out of that. Hopefully my editing was good enough that you thought it was real and that we were actually talking, because we were, but I had to re-record it. It's unfortunate. Zoom sucks. It is what it is. But anyways, to wrap up this podcast, we said talking about Njoku more. There's an extension on the way for David Njoku. They are closing the deal and working out the final agreements, and that will be done. So in the next episode, we will talk about that, get into more of OTAs, and also talk about building the Browns. So everybody, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Let me know if you heard this end part and if I convinced you there. So anyway, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.